Hello and welcome to the finance final exam for ED 6381. This is Shannon Stroll, and I am presenting to the Board of Trustees proposals for Happy Land ISD. So the first things that I want to be sure that all are aware of is a focus on compliance, safety and security, recruiting and retaining high quality staff, and pathways for both staff and students. The first piece I would focus on is compliance. As we know, House Bill 3 requires full day pre-K, as the district is not eligible for a waiver because we do have the space. The first thing that I would suggest is the addition of 6 new classroom teachers, so that we could offer a 12 classroom full day pre-K program. Cost of that would be $336,720. With that, we would also need to add 6 paraprofessionals, cost of $134,640. And then, of course, our classroom supplies. Average would be about $800,000 for 12 classrooms to be offered for that full day pre-K. We would look at funding that with our maintenance and operations. Total cost at $1,271,360. It would be essential to have this in place because legally we are required to provide a full day pre-K program. Second priority I would focus on and want the board to consider is how we plan to recruit and retain our high quality staff. Currently, the district has 950 faculty and staff with $225 per faculty staff member offered or supported by the district for health insurance. Total cost of that currently is $213,750. To offer an incentive, which is aligned with what the board is requesting, I would propose to increase that to $300 per faculty and staff member, which would be an increase of $71,250,000. I feel like it's extremely important to remain competitive with neighboring districts by offering this incentive. Would be advantageous for us to consider. We would also have to look at the total and based on our enrollment numbers. The more students we add, the more staff we also need to add. And so this fund could become high as student enrollment and the need for more teachers, staff members increases. I would also want to consider for the board because there was a 1% raise the prior school year, building on continuing that percent and offering faculty and staff an additional 1% pay raise increase. With that, of course, would have to come into play long-term planning and what that recurring expense would look like for the district. But that is one method that I would seek to obtain to again recruit and hopefully retain all of the high quality staff and faculty members we currently have. I would also want to focus on recruiting and retaining our students. As it was mentioned that we do have some students that we're looking at the early college high school program at a neighboring school district, or these students are not returning to high school because of the need to work for their livelihood. I would look at the implementation of the ROTC program. This would provide new opportunities for our high school students and would offer incentive and hopefully motivation for them to want to continue to come to school. The cost of the ROTC program would be $350,000. And I feel like that would be extremely beneficial for our students to not only be able to learn about new opportunities, but also, again, as I said, to increase that motivation, incentive to want to be at school. I would want the school board to consider what it would look like to have an early college high school pathway, as we do see some students, families that are leaving to explore that option. My recommendation would be to develop an initial action plan. That would include evaluating how many students are actually leaving to attend the early college high school, and then working to determine if there was a need that was sufficient enough, because the cost of $1 million is a lot. And so we would want to make sure that the need equals the pay. I would also want to focus on pathways. As it was mentioned, that we have a large number of migrant and bilingual students enrolling in the district or currently enrolled in the district. I feel it would be beneficial for the school board to consider the implementation of a dual language program for 6 elementaries. Right now, the migrant bilingual students are sitting at 18% of the total district population, with the potential increase of 300 students. That would increase it to be 23,000 of our student, or 23%, sorry, of our student population. That to me signifies a need to provide an appropriate type of program to reach the needs of those students. But rather than have stipends for every teacher, my recommendation is that we would seek out one teacher in each of the 6 elementaries for pre-K through 3rd grade to become bilingual certified. That would bring our total cost to $1,190,000. However, I feel that by investing in this type of program and providing the right training for these teachers, that we would be meeting the needs of our student population. The other areas that I think we need to look at discussing currently are not feasible within the current budget. Because of this, it would be my recommendation to the board to consider the implementation of a bond referendum. There are many things within the district that needs to either be updated or created, which requires a lot more funds than what we currently have. We need to look at what our buildings look like, our buses, and then how we're adequately providing pathways for students. So my recommendation, based on the fact that the last bond was passed in 1968, my recommendation to the board is to discuss and develop an action plan in terms of what that may look like. I would reinforce that improvements are needed to maintain safety and security for both buses and buildings, as well as to retain our students at the high school level. The recommendations of the school board currently, things that they're wanting to create, are good ideas. We just need to find the right way to fund them. As the majority of our buildings were built in the 1950s, with our largest elementary school built in the 1930s, my recommendation would be to seek an initial plan to look at those key areas needing renovation for security and safety. As the cost of a new elementary is $12 million, that would be something that could be included if a new bond referendum was passed. And so that would be my first recommendation, is to look at the number 1 largest elementary school, and then if approved, continue to renovate for security and safety the additional campuses. Our buses were last purchased in 1990, 33 years old. My recommendation would be to evaluate the safety and security of each, determine the needs, and seek to replace those buses that are most in need. That would be a priority to ensure the safety and security of our students. The board would like to include a stadium improvement to the press box, as well as the addition of a digital scoreboard. Though at this time, this would not be my immediate plan of action. It would definitely be something would consider as part of the bond referendum. The cost of $1,300,000 for both. I think I would look initially at seeking out a sponsor for the scoreboard, and then adding the improvements to the stadium and any additional structural needs to the request for a bond referendum. Looking for a sponsor would do a lot of things for the community, including promoting local businesses, as well as being very visible for the community. Clearly, football is something that the district is and the community is very proud of, and so would want to continue to honor that and celebrate it by seeking for some creative ways to provide those improvements. In terms of the request to build the new agriculture farm or ag farm, again, at the cost of $600,000 for the farm, and then an additional $2,400,000 for the CTE wing. I do feel that there could be a need to add these items, but again, it would require some research, evaluating which students most likely would be interested in this type of program, and then again putting that as part of the bond package to basically raise the tax rate, which has not been raised for a while, to provide those funds. Finally, when we look at the attendance rate decline that's been happening, which ultimately affects your ADA, I think it would be essential to evaluate which students are needed on the farm and collaborate with them to develop an early release, late arrival plan with the high schools. I feel like this would help the community feel supported, help the students feel supported, but it would also help to have our students in classrooms where they need to be. This would also improve within our funding allocations from the state. So overall, I feel as though with the school board, I would agree with many of their suggestions. I would agree with having our teachers become bilingual certified to a certain extent. I want to be conservative and would only want to certify those students who would essentially be working with those pre-K through third grade until the need showed that there needed to be additional certifications. I feel like increasing the insurance contribution is manageable and would also seek to recruit and retain high quality teachers within the district. In terms of the revisions to our buildings, I feel as though those are good ideas and are needed, but would need to again be part of a bigger package. We would need to look at a bond referendum, which includes the elevation of the current tax rate to help raise funds to be able to provide that. This would include this new wing to the CTE building, replacing the oldest elementary school, the stadium improvements to the press box. I feel like the purchasing of new buses would be a priority that I would want the school board to consider first and foremost, because we want to make sure that those are always safe and secure. The building of the ag farm, again, would be part of the bond referendum. The early college high school, I think all of those too also would require some research in terms of what number of students, who is needed to teach those, what types of certifications are needed before we could implement something such as that. I do feel like the ROTC program at the high school would be an effective thing to implement for the current school year to motivate and incentivize our students. And then, of course, adding in the additional classrooms for pre-K. That is a state requirement. It would need to happen immediately. And then finally, the dual language programs, that goes hand in hand with the bilingual certification. I do feel like that would be an important component that would both support our students and because it does provide a stipend, would also motivate, incentivize, and retain our teachers.